Welcome back into the Packers Corner. Coming off a loss against the Lions, tough one on Thursday night there. Maybe a moral victory? We'll have to get Schmitty's opinion on that terminology after the break here.
Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing. In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
It was named after Vince Lombardi. You play in Green Bay. As important as it is to any other team, it means more to us.
When he walked into the meeting, he looked us right in the eye. He said, "Gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection."
My first thought was, on any play with my arm strength, I may not let anybody know this, but my first thought was home run.
On every play?
On every play.
He did what? Fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Well, we're going to continue to relentlessly pursue excellence here. Perfection was not in the cards for us against the Lions, Schmitty, but do you say that was a moral victory, or are we in trouble come playoff time? What are your thoughts on that game we saw on Thursday night?
I don't know if you're Amazon and you see Al Michaels put his performance out there on Thursday night and not walk him off the stage. That was the best football game thus far in the NFL. It was really spectacular. Both teams should come away, us specifically should come away happy that our team showed up on Thursday night. I was totally impressed with our defensive line versus their offensive line. We were not bullied at any point really during the game. You have a Christian Watson fumble early to start the game when you're driving to potentially tie it at 7-7. Guys, Jordan Love, he's the one that makes me yo-yo. And Thursday, I was about as high as I could be on Jordan Love in this performance. Granted, he had those three, just only 3 completions to start the game that first half. Some of those balls were spectacular. The one to Tucker Kraft in the end zone. What an absolute ball. He felt the pressure. He was moving up in the pocket. He found the receivers. I would have loved him to have led Christian Watson up the outside the numbers on that one deep ball. But incredible performance by him. Again, Josh Jacobs will be the reason we get carried throughout the playoffs. Being able to have that dynamic option outside of Jordan Love and his arm talent. Josh Jacobs continues to impress everyone across the league. I hope he gets running back of the year honors. He's playing that well. So besides not having Jair, which I think would have definitely helped us on Thursday night, pretty impressed with our performance. You want to see your team on this trajectory. They haven't really faltered to this point. And so we have playoff aspirations. We even have Super Bowl aspirations, and I think that remains intact to this day.
Well, Dad, Schmitty pretty positive considering we're coming off a loss, our second loss to a team that, in all likelihood, we probably have to get through if we have greater aspirations. Are you discouraged at all, or are you as bright and glowing as Schmitty here?
I think I'm pretty much right there with Schmitty. I was watching a podcast with Tom Silverstein over there with the Sentinel Journal and Ryan Wood and the boys, and I felt like I was going to have to talk Silverstein off the ledge there. He is so down on the Packers. They lost. They can't beat the Lions. And good Lord, we got the youngest team in the NFL. The goofball Dan Campbell is absolutely going to coach his way right out of a game. He goes for every 4th down, and he had to get 4 out of 5, and that's on us to stop one of those. But come on, 4 out of 5 4th downs. Numerous missed opportunities, and we have the game of the year, like Schmitty says, and it comes down to the last kick. If you remember, I predicted that we would win that game on the thrust of Brandon McManus's foot, 33-31. The only problem was LaFleur didn't do what I told him to do, which is to take the ball, run half the time off the clock in the first quarter, get the lead, and then have the ball last. So he apparently the message didn't get through to Coach LaFleur. Otherwise, the script would have been flipped, and the construction of that game would have been of such a nature that we'd have had the ball last. And that's what the game kind of came down to. We can talk a little bit about officiating. I don't like to do that a whole lot, but we had some calls go against us. We didn't take advantage. There was a play there where Jordan Love, now Schmidt's being so careful that couple times there, I wanted to tell him to let it loose. So we can talk about some of those things, but I'm very sanguine and optimistic on this young team, and I'm actually very thankful. What a season! I'm reminded of the immortal words of Mike Tice: "Enjoy the season." What an enjoyable season it is. Now, all this can change in a heartbeat. We got a big game this week, and Seattle's going to test us, and everything could look a lot different if we don't strap up our britches and go in there and play a good ball game in Seattle.
Well, Dad, I think you're right. We do have to talk about the officiating a little bit at the end there, and I'm sorry I don't have any highlights with us. It was queuing up the Dolphins highlights from a week ago. We could relive those and be riding high from that previous victory, but didn't update for me here, so you have to get the verbal description to all our viewers that way. But Schmitty, we had, of course, the big controversy is probably centered around the offensive pass interference when the Packers scored a touchdown at the end, and then the blatant no call on maybe a more egregious offensive pass interference that wasn't called for the Lions when Matt LaFleur lost his mind. And then the only other controversy I'd point to is has nothing to do with the officiating, but just the fourth down decision making and the fact that the Lions got 4 out of 5 fourth downs. I want to open up a little bit of discussion of what that might look like if we run into these guys again. So what were your thoughts on those two big OPIs?
I would think this has to be visited in the offseason. If you recall the Saints pass interference that didn't get called, that kind of sparked the whole having the booth come down and review these things when you feel that the call was made incorrectly on the field. That's what I lead back to. I think these things ebb and flow. It's you flip the coin, you're on the right side of it sometimes, and then on the other side of it, you're not so pleased. But that's football. I feel like if we tally these all up at the end of the year, we're operating at maybe a 55-45 split at best. So I don't mind it. I just would like to see the NFL progress in a way that they can make decisions from New York, if you will, and tell the refs that they got it wrong and that they can correct it on the field. That's not the Goodell NFL. They don't want to necessarily backtrack a bunch of their refs on the field every game. That's not a good look either. So being very selective, especially when we're talking about some scoring plays like the ones that happened on Thursday, those are incredibly important. And so you want to see the NFL, the booth review step in there. So that's really all I have to say on that matter. Yeah, during the game, extremely disappointing. Matt LaFleur has every right to get worked up. I'm loving his attitude on the sideline. He's a fired up guy. He's really feisty. You saw him get some heckler holding the American flag before the start of the game is chirping Matt LaFleur and some players, and Matt stuck up for his players and gave it right back to him. So I like that kind of stuff. That says a lot about him and the care he shows for the players on the team.
Schmitty's ready to run through a brick wall for Coach LaFleur there. And Schmitty, I'm ready to get the officials off the field. If you watch a European soccer game, we've got, computer-generated lines to determine offsides. You look at what they do in tennis for the last decade for in and out calls. You look at baseball. America's pastime, who I thought was going to maintain sort of an antiquated stance on this for quite some time to come, now has a pitch clock, and we're doing balls and strikes, in an automated fashion. So let's put a sensor in the football for yard marks. Let's get as many of these pinstripes off the field as possible. And we got hundreds of cameras. The thing that drove me crazy, Dad, the other week is they at the Bears game at Soldier Field, they have a camera that shows down the sideline on a kickoff or sort of any time that the guy's running right on the sideline. We can see if a foot is in or out, but they determined we can't use that camera at Soldier Field because not all stadiums have that camera. So they had the video evidence to overturn a call, and we said we're not going to. We would prefer to keep the call wrong. Can we end this and get an OPI right for the Packers and have them maybe win this game against the Lions? Can we move past all this?
Well, we got to play the game. I like what LaFleur says. Don't make it come down to an official's call. But just to tag on to what you're saying, early in the game, Jayden Reed catches a ball down on the sideline in about 2 milliseconds. We have replay confirmation review that comes in and makes the ruling that it's not a catch. It takes 2 milliseconds. And we have a play breakdown. It's an off-schedule play with Jordan Love looking to the left. He scrambles out to the right. You've got Watson looking back at the quarterback, running a pattern across the field, and the DB is running to catch up to our running back. Jacobs over there. He's never going to get to him, and they happen to run into each other. It's not a pick. It's not a pick play. It's an off-schedule play. 2 guys ran into each other. You ought to be able to correct that on video review. It's just ridiculous. The NFL can't get it right to save their lives. I've always said it. Get 3 drunk guys at Buffalo Wild Wings to make the ruling, and I'd much rather see them than the zebras that are out there, the idiots they put out there that throw flags to justify their job. They're ruling like it's an attorney looking at a legal document. Come on. Get a little feel for the game, but we're not going to use that for an excuse. But that definitely was not a pick play by Watson, and so it was frustrating because we needed a touchdown there and we had it. We were going to score. Now, I'll go back and be a little bit critical because after that play, it was 3rd and 19. Jordan gets flushed from the pocket. He's got Bo Melton wide open in the right corner of the end zone. All he needs to do is get his head up and let her rip. And it's hard to criticize Jordan too much and love him. He's just great. So this is the next evolution, guys. You got to give credit. The Lions, Jared Goff, completed 13 passes in a row in the 4th quarter, and that's why they won. And so we've got to ascend to that level and not allow these calls to get to us. And I think we will. We got the youngest team.
How do we do that, Dad? How do we stop Goff from going 13 for 13? How do we get a stop on 4th down?
Yeah, here's one very simple way. You get Edgerrin Cooper healthy and get him back on the field, and he's coming back on the field. Luckily, our dynamic guy is coming. Unfortunately for them, Aiden Hutchinson is not coming back this year. And then Jeff Hafley, you stop playing passive on 4th down. You send the house. You get pressure on the quarterback. You don't let them out-scheme you, outflank you. By scheming up a one-on-one with Isaiah McDuffie and a guy he has no chance to guard on an angle route there, and with Eric Stokes guarding the number 3 wide receiver, I'm about to pull my hair out. So Hafley had it covered up so that Amon-Ra and the Laporta didn't beat him, but unfortunately Ben Johnson schemed up the matchups against our weaknesses, and we're not going to have those weaknesses if we get number 23, Mr. Alexander, back on the field, and number 56, Mr. Cooper, and then we got to play aggressive, tight man-to-man. So there's hope. These guys, it's not a pipe dream that these guys are coming back. They're going to be coming back, and so hopefully we look like a different team the next time we match up. And there's about what? People want to say there's a big mile between us and Detroit. I don't buy it. It is a very tight match up there, and all we need is a bounce or two, and then you know what, the narrative completely changes because these other games don't matter. Just win the one that matters most at the end.
Well, we had a couple other compelling matchups to watch around the division, at least on paper here. Schmitty, your boys, the Chicago Bears, not so good against the 49ers. My guy, Kirk Cousins, not so good against the Vikings. What do you make of the Vikings getting it done and the Bears failing to do so?
Boy, oh boy, do I wish I could delete that clip about Kirk Cousins from a couple weeks ago off the face of this earth. He doesn't have it, Griffey. He got made look like a fool by the Vikings. The Vikings' incredible defense, an incredible team thus far through the year. The Bears get embarrassed. I'm just like I want the Bears to give Caleb Williams the opportunity to succeed. I just don't like. It's not this year anymore, right? Does it even happen next year or the year after? Again, just a terrible ran organization, and so it wouldn't be great to see them spoil such a generational arm talent that is Caleb Williams. Painted fingernails or not. For me, with the Falcons game, it's more just like the Vikings. It's taken me, unfortunately, this long to buy what the Vikings have been putting out, and what they did to the Falcons on Sunday. I'm in agreement now. Like, the Vikings are my favorite to win the Super Bowl, Griffey. That's how good I think the Vikings are playing. I saw Sam Darnold.
You remember what you predicted for their
Griffey,
record preseason?
Griffey, I know what I said. I know what I just said. Griffey, the Vikings are my favorites to win the Super Bowl. Mark my words right now.
3-14 is what
say,
you had preseason.
Hey, I want to put a little wager down, and he'll take it. And guess what? It's a guarantee. The Vikings will win the Super Bowl. That's what's going to happen, my friend. So it's
Schmitty. We're not going to Bourbon Street if the Vikings make it. That's only if the green and gold.
They're really good. They're really good. They're really good. It's concerning me, and so now this is the path my mind has to take. The Vikings win the Super Bowl. I have to already start putting it into my brain that this is what the outcome is, so that I can deal with it in some way. Because if I don't do it right now, Griffey, who knows? I could be living up in a tree in sub-zero temperatures for the next couple months if I don't start talking the way I am right now. So Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad you're preparing yourself. At least you got that going for you. Let's let Schmitty fret a little bit here. I want to talk a little bit about some potential first-round playoff matchups. There's a lot of possibilities, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on who you would least like to run into. We, of course, have a big game coming up against Seattle that's going to partially dictate a lot of this. I see the Niners getting hot. I don't want a piece of them in the playoffs if they somehow found a way to sneak in real badly. We have the Rams out west. We have the Cardinals out west still, all in the mix. And then we look at the South. Another likely, potential matchup either against the Bucs or the Falcons, depending on how things play out that way. Do you have a team you least want to run to out of those, Dad?
You do this to me. I feel like Schmitty now. You do this to me every week, and I don't want to go there. I'm not a playoff calculator guy. I'm a blinders on, one game only. We got to go 1-0 this week because everything changes. The complexion's completely different if you go in there and lay an egg against Seattle. So all I want to do is go into Seattle and get the job done. We've had trouble there. It's a difficult place to play. Seattle's on a roll. They could be the team that we play if we're the 3-6 seed. My focus is on winning this next game and somehow getting ahead of the Vikings for the 5th seed. That's a goal that's in reach. That's the way I would look at it. And I guess if you're really making me tell you why, it's because, yes, I would rather go play the Falcons or somebody from the South than to have to go out west. And there's only one road to do that, and that's win this game first and then get over to the Dome. Now, and I'm like Schmitty. I'm to the point now where I'm willing to give Sam Darnold a heck of a lot of credit. I think the guy deserves it. But I tell you what, Schmitty, I think Kirk Cousins would be in exactly the same place Sam Darnold is if he was on that team. Now, you give them credit because they got Sam Darnold for $10 million. So he's in a great situation. Kirk is no longer in a very good situation. Kirk probably should have settled for a little more money and been able to play for a championship. But be that as it may, the Vikings are for real. They're formidable. But I don't think it's so much that we couldn't overcome it. So I'm focused on Seattle. Did I answer your question in a left-handed, obtuse way? Because that's the way I wanted to answer it.
I can't tell. Is this my father? We have Coach Bill Belichick on the Packers corner. We're on to Cincinnati is what it sounds like to me. Schmitty, are you willing to entertain my question a little bit more deeply? Who don't you want to see in that first round? And Dad, 1 second on the gonculator. We're in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs.
Gar, I don't like that he just did that. I don't like
blinders,
it either. I don't like it either,
Schmitty.
I can't. And we're going to talk about the preview. I don't like that. I don't like that we showed 95%. I don't like that we're doing that.
It is what it is. It is what it
Griffey,
is.
Now, here, I'll entertain your question. I don't want to see the Buccaneers in the South, and I certainly don't want to see the Rams in the West. If we play the Rams, I think it's good night, Irene. Okay, that they're playing that well. And if we beat the Seahawks, that puts the Rams, that elevates them for a possibility. We lose to the Seahawks, and maybe we're talking about the Eagles. Even they become to be part of the picture. So don't give me the Rams. Don't give me the Bucks. I just want to avoid the Rams with all my being. And so, however that needs to shake out, I think they play. The nice thing we get to see is the West is going to play a bunch of divisional games just like the North. And so we're going to see, who rises to the top here once it comes time to make these playoff pushes. So I think it's going to be the Rams that are going to win that division, and I would be any team. That's the team you don't want to play to start.
I have too many memories of things going poorly against the San Francisco 49ers. I want no part of them sneaking in somehow. We seem to find a way to lose to them in the playoffs way too many times, going all the way back to the 90s after when Holmgren was still there and T.O. Towering over Darren Sharp. I don't want to see them. Let's go around the NFC North matchups a little bit, and then I want to dive deep, allocate some time for the Seahawks matchup, of course. But we have a Monday night game. Dad, do you have a thought there? You look like you're.
I gotta set the record straight here. We gotta readjust the tone. All this playoff calculator stuff. Here's what I know for sure. After that Lions game, I was able to become philosophical very quickly and think forward to the chance to play them again. And I remembered the way I felt in 1967 when I was an 8-year-old boy watching the Green Bay football Packers at my grandmother's house with my parents when they lost to the Los Angeles Rams with Roman Gabriel playing quarterback. And I think on the Packer intro that I think there's some footage from that game. It certainly is a Packer-Rams game with the old white uniforms of the Rams and the blue helmets with the white horns. And you had a receiver named Jack Snow and a running back named Les Josephson. And Griff, you've heard the story where Les Josephson played softball with Papa in the summers in Marshall, Minnesota, and he jumped over the home run fence to flag down home run balls. So
he'd hurdle the whole fence.
What's that?
He'd hurdle. He wasn't robbing home runs. He'd go flag. He'd hurdle the whole fence, right?
Once the ball went over the fence, he'd just jump over the whole fence. Nobody, you had to do the Fosbury flop for any normal human being to get over that thing. But he just got a running start and jumped right over it. At any rate, I remember how despondent I felt. We lost 28-7. And later on in the Western Conference playoffs, we played the Los Angeles Rams at Lambeau Field. And Schmitty, we won that playoff game 27-24. And do you know what the next game was in 1967? Late in December on a very chilly, chilly day. It was something called the Ice Bowl. And we beat Dallas, and then we ascended to the second NFL championship. And so I'm just channeling and visualizing whatever it takes. We got some exciting games, regular season.
The Ice Bowl was before the first
I'm channeling
one, wasn't it?
Another rematch with the Lions. And that's my focus. Okay, that's just what I wanted to do to set the record straight.
Ice Bowl was not to dive into the weeds here. Ice Bowl was before the Chiefs Super Bowl, wasn't it? When Max McGee came out with 7 for 138 and 2 touchdowns and that whole ball of wax, I believe.
I just checked it the other day, and unless I checked it wrong, it was the second Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was in 1968. Third Super Bowl was the Jets in 1969 when they beat the Colts.
The Colts, yeah,
so
Baltimore.
I'll go do my homework, and if we have to edit the podcast, nobody will ever hear this.
Yeah, no, I'm going to make a big deal of it next week is what we'll do. No, that's a great story, and maybe we have something similar happen against the Lions
Schmitty,
here.
This reminds me of when Griff was a youngster, and I would tell him, Griff, pick up your cap. And he would say, Dad, it's not my cap, it's my hat. And I'd say, just pick the darn thing up, for crying out loud. Always a semantic substitution just to wear the old man out.
You were rolling there. I didn't mean to break stride.
Yeah, I was rolling when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
Schmitty, we got Vikings, Bears coming up. I believe that's the Monday night matchup. What do you make of that one? Caleb Williams got a shot. He got one left in him this year. I said a number of weeks ago they weren't going to win a game, and they haven't since.
I've been to many. I go to every Bears Vikings game here at US Bank. I've been to the last 6 of them, all different meanings. Typically, they're later in the season. We're getting another prime time. I think the last season was a prime time game. The Bears, somehow they decide to show up in Minneapolis and play their hearts out. So the spread is 6.5 right now, Griffey. I love the Bears. I love the Bears. I love the Bears to win. Now, it's because at some point the Vikings had to lay a 0. It has to be they have to have one bad game. It hasn't happened yet, but you kind of want to get one of these out of the way before you really make the stretch to the playoffs. They're a playoff team. You can have one more blunder. You kind of want to have one to reinvigorate the team. Everything's going so well that it's kind of you lose a game like this to the Bears just to check yourself in the mirror to make sure that you're ready and battle tested to go and make one of these Super Bowl runs that I think is going to happen. So I think it can happen. You have a lot of wide receiver talent. The defense for the Vikings are very opportunistic in the sense that they bring a lot of blitzes. I assume that's what they're going to do on Monday night. And the Caleb Williams, Roman Dunze connection had really looked good this past week. So this is going to be the last game the Vikings lose for the season. Mark my word.
The only reason I caught up to you guys is you guys just keep picking the orange and navy over and over again here. Dad, you'd just be just about undefeated if you hadn't picked the Bears so many times. And Schmitty, well, I don't know if we could completely salvage his picks, but it's certainly not helping him. What do you think about this week on Monday night, though?
Well, I just Googled Super Bowl II, January 14, 1968. So let's put that to rest. We got that resolved now. We can move forward. The Bears are not going to win this game. I'm done with the Bears. I made that mistake one time. It was because I had my orange hat on and I was still muzzleloader hunting and I saw that orange C and I went colorblind and I got all goofy. And what the heck was I thinking? Of course, the 49ers are going to kick their rear end. But the Vikings will take care of business, and then what we're playing for, boys, we got to take care of business against Seattle, and we're playing to beat the Vikings over at the bank, and then the Vikings lose the last game to Detroit, and if we happen to run the table, we're tied with the record with them, and then I don't know what the tiebreakers are. We see where we go from there, but that's the scenario that we're looking for, and it's entirely possible. And this week, it'll be the Vikings over the Bears, and it'll come right down to those last 2 games, the way it should.
Well, thank you for setting the record straight on the Ice Bowl there. I was double checking your findings. Who'd you pick? I got to put the logo up on the screen.
Did I say Vikings, Schmitty, fairly emphatically there?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm letting the cat. I wasn't listening. I was looking. I was explaining that. I just want to make sure I get the logo right, so when I go back and review our records, we don't have any discrepancies.
Now I understand why we have trouble, Schmitty, because he doesn't listen.
I normally do. I normally do.
16, for God's sake. I'm starting to question. I think I'm 22 and 14.
No.
Not counting my wins, Gar.
This is why I verified.
I know at one time, Schmitty, you were about 0-8, so you had a little tunnel to dig your way out of, and you're coming back strong. But it was a tough start to the season.
The one time in 3 years of doing this, I have a lapse. I come clean with it. And we made it right, so I'm taking my slack, whether or not you're willing to give it to me. I'm with you though on the pick, Dad. I think the Vikings get it done. Sammy Darnold is hot. I don't know if the Vikings are going to be able to afford him. Might be their biggest problem. So that'd be an interesting scenario to see play out. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will look good in purple, Schmitty.
This is like Rush Limbaugh encouraging in all of the blue states that allow Republicans to go vote for the opposing Democrat, to give them the old dipsy doodle, the old slipperoony. And this is where the Vikings are going to be. Are they going to make the right decision next year? To me, it looks like right now, good grief, you got to package something together for Sam Darnold, something in $100 million range for 3 years, 120, 100 and whatever.
They should maybe extend them right now. I don't know if they're able to, but the price is going to go up.
And are you going to put are you going to be like Dan Campbell and slide all your chips in the middle of the table and go out on 4th down every time and bet on a rookie quarterback with 2 knee surgeries to carry the franchise next year? I mean, maybe he can. Or are you going to do it the Packer way and let your veteran play, let the young guy learn? He's there if the veteran gets hurt. And that would be my recommendation. But Schmitty, I would be willing to bet right now the Vikings are going to screw the pooch and screw this deal up. And that Sam Darnold's going to go on the open market somewhere and make a bunch of money, and they're going to be stuck with a rookie who doesn't live up to expectations.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that play out, that's for sure. Speaking of Dan Campbell, the Lions are playing the Bills. That'll be a heck of a fun game here. And I'm playing, thanks to we got to have a little shout out to Commissioner Crumry in the Fantasy Football League that Schmitty is a part of, and helping me secure a playoff berth. I've got a big matchup against Nick Larson, whose quarterback is Josh Allen, and I win, and I looked at the over-under for this game against the Lions. It's like 54.5, and that's not making me feel real good about my chances. We're going to see Josh Allen run for 3 and throw for 3 more again here and maybe get it done against the Lions. What do you think this one looks like?
Griffey, I mean, did you see how good Jordan Love played against the Lions in the second half? And with all respect to Jordan Love, Josh Allen is the premier. If there's one quarterback that you would want to have over Jordan, I'd say Josh Allen, and neither of you would question me at all. Okay.
Yes, I would. I don't want Josh. You can have him.
I want Brett Favre.
God. And okay, this is where Packers Corner goes off the rails. I started this podcast I was being really well behaved, and now I got to hear and deal with you two about some court. I say one sentence about Josh Allen, one sentence, and you guys are going to make me flip out because you're not reasonable. That's the problem here. Packers Corner people, listen to these 2 buffoons that I'm working with. Okay, all right. They wouldn't take Josh Allen. The guy's going to be the MVP of the league. They don't want him. I don't get it. Isn't there people I got to deal with on a day-to-day basis? I can't take it. I can't work like this. Good Lord. The Bills are going to win, Griffey. The Bills are going to win by 6. The 54.5, yeah, it's going to go over. And you're going to lose your precious fantasy football game that you shouldn't have been in the first place. You got gifted in. So shame on you. Nick beats you, which I don't want him to win, but he has to beat you. Bills roll 6 points.
I just have to make it known, and Schmitty has a league of his own, and we finished the season 13-1. I had more wins in that league than in the 3 leagues combined that I'm in with Schmitty than he had cumulatively. So that gives you a sense of how our seasons went this year. Just had to get that jab in, Schmitty. Sorry, I don't mean to push you over the edge here. We'll let you talk in a moment. Dad, what are your thoughts on the Lions-Bills matchup here?
With Schmitty, can't you see he's teetering on the brink here? He's getting all red in the face. I don't see that he has any fingers to drink to calm him down. Get some fingers. Go pour yourself a little highball over there, buddy, so that you can get through the rest of this podcast. Now, Schmitty didn't ask the operant question, which is, where's the game being played? Are we over in the mistake by the lake?
Ford Field.
Well, that's Detroit then. Yeah, that's not a problem. And I don't want this Josh Allen flash in the pan for 1 year. Give me the long, steady course with Jordan Love. Josh Allen's going to run around and get himself hurt. Somebody's going to jump into his knee. You can't run around like that forever and have it work out. So
I didn't even know they had a football program at Wyoming there.
How's that?
I didn't know they had a football program in Wyoming there. It's some lofty pedigree.
That's neither here nor there. But anyway, Jordan Love is my guy. I'll stick with him.
Nothing like the pedigree of our nice quarterback from Utah State. Long pedigree of historic football teams there. Southern Miss, the vaunted greats of all time here. Schmitty, I think Josh Allen has a setback. We watched Nick have a bit of a tough time, stubs his toe in the playoffs, and I'm moving on and moving up in the world. Lions rolling this one. Now we got to break into the big matchup, of course. The one that puts the nail in the coffin for any of these talks with the playoff gonculator, because it'll officially get us the clinch, is my suspicion. Do we make that happen this week or in the future is the only question in my mind. Schmitty, what do you think against the Seahawks? And break that one down. Let's tease it a little bit here first.
Sure, Griffey. The problem with a team like the Seahawks, who are now at the top of their division, they are Jekyll and Hyde. They have been a lot of the season. You don't know what you're going to get out of Geno Smith. The defense seems to be, the secondary is pretty consistent. They have a pretty good young pass rush. So the Seahawks have the making to compete with the NFC West, which they have. They just haven't been able to find consistency with their play. DK Metcalf continues to be a problem for most secondaries. So I like the Seahawks to come out of that division, even win or loss this week, because all they have to do is get hot, and that would mean good things for the Packers if we're in the playoffs, and the Seahawks are in the playoffs, because that typically means that would mean that the Rams aren't in, which I'm very scared of. Now, Griffey, this game is so critical to the outcome of our season. I know we've ran the gonculator, the percentages. Look at our losses. We've lost to the Lions, Lions twice, the Vikings, and the Eagles down in Brazil. I don't know if this place is still a country anymore. We lost those 4 games. All are going to be playoff teams. All are going to be seated higher than us in the playoffs. So those are the losses you kind of want to have. You showed up against the Lions in great fashion. If you lose to the Seahawks, you're going to have people questioning, the talking heads, us. Are we really a team able to make one of these stretch runs and dance all the way down on Bourbon Street? I would imagine that if we lose this game, it's the people are going to collapse. The Packers corner faithful, we're going to be. This is a descending team if they lose to the Seahawks. It cannot happen, Griffey. And guess what? It's not going to happen. The Packers are going to roll this team. Did you see them play the Lions? Did you see Jordan Love? I mean, goodness gracious, that defensive line, Griffey, I don't know if I'd take any other defensive line right now in the league. That's how good they looked against the Lions. And those damn refs, they snatched it from us. The Packers are going to get their vengeance on Sunday Night Football, prime time. And people, it's going to confirm to the teams that are above us in the NFC right now that you got to watch out for the Packers. They are going to potentially ruin you. You got to play a perfect game. The Lions, they play damn near a perfect game to beat us. It's not that we have to play the perfect game. It's that our opponents got to play a perfect game, because if they don't, we will snatch their soul.
I love the energy. I hope the Packers come out like Schmitty with a little bit of fire under their saddle there. They're going to be tough to stop. Just pump that right into their veins. Give them a little dose of Schmitty on the Packers corner, and I don't think we're going to lose again the rest of the way. Dad, one thing I want to point out for this matchup, and we'll let you take this wherever you want, but is the Jackson Smith and Jigba Jayden Reed matchup there. Well, I think both of us, maybe all 3 of us here, were pretty high on both guys. As soon as I saw the Jayden Reed tape, I felt a lot better about how that draft just over a year ago went. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, after maybe a little bit of a slow start, coming on as the wide receiver 3 for the Seahawks, is putting together a heck of a season this year, even a better season than Jayden Reed, which would have been shocking given how Jayden Reed came out of the chutes to start the year. So what do you make of that matchup, and how are you feeling about our pick so far? And the other guy to include in this, I guess, is the guy that we took when we could have taken JSN. That's LVN, Lucas Van Ness.
Well, as usual, I'm probably going to sidestep your question here because there's something else I'd rather talk about. But I'll get to it maybe a little bit. But Schmitty's over there. I don't even know. I've never heard Schmitty so sanguine on the Packers. His heart's a pumping and his corpuscles are jumping over there, and he's on top of the world for the Packers. And I love it, but it makes me a little bit nervous. I don't. I thought he was going to do the old zigzag and switcheroony and say we can't lose to the Seattle, but we're gonna. So here we are. But I will say, if Jair Alexander is cleared for the game, if Edgerrin Cooper is able to play in the game, I don't necessarily expect Evan Williams to make it through concussion protocol. And I'm thinking Dobbs should probably be cleared for the game. If those three guys are up and ready to go, then I'm with Schmitty all the way. If not, this is going to be a nail biter right down to the wire, and we're going to have to hope that Josh Jacobs helps us control the ball. And I like Schmitty, I like what you say about our defensive line. The only problem is not enough pressure on the quarterback, my friend. Jared Goff didn't feel any heat back there. He completes 13 balls in a row, and the answer to that, as you may or may not surmise immediately, is Jair Alexander. So you can lock up half the field and you can send Edgerrin Cooper or Quay Walker and get some pressure on the quarterback. So that's what it's going to take. And I do agree with Schmitty. It's kind of a pivotal game. The young team really looks good. We've lost to what? The three teams that are ahead of us in the standings in the NFC, and we've lost by 2 points, 5 points, and 3 points just now. And then the other loss to the Lions was a pick six that was ill-advised right before the halftime. Otherwise, that's an even game. So it feels like one of those deals where you just keep knocking on the door until you bang it down. And I think if we beat Seattle, which I predict that we are going to eke it out one way or the other, and if those three guys play, it won't be such an eke out, that we are eventually going to bang down that door. So I'll go with the green and gold here.
And you didn't want any piece of my question there. I guess we'll do a little retrospective after the game. We'll have an opportunity to talk.
Let me say this.
Okay.
The draft pick I'd like to question right now is a gentleman by the name of Jordan Morgan, who's nowhere to be seen, instead of Cooper DeJean. And would Cooper DeJean look good in the defensive backfield? Oh my gosh. I get the pick, depth in the offensive line and everything else, but with hindsight as 2020, man, oh man, Goody Cooper DeJean would look good in green and gold right now. And we need and you know what? Nixon plays better in the slot. He hasn't had an interception since Timbuktu. He takes a snap in the slot and boom, he jumps that comeback route and he's got an interception. So there you go. There's your draft analysis.
Well, and on that one, I think we all said it at the time. After we saw the way that the draft played out, we found a way to say, wow, I think Goody did it again. But we were trying to find a way to say that. We said, I like the way the pieces fell and the board fell and we got the guys at the right positions that we needed. But it really felt like we're just thinking a little bit too hard when you heard Jordan Morgan's name come off. It was the obvious pick. Everyone saw it. Everyone thought Cooper DeJean's going to be in green and gold. Probably 80% of fandom would have said that's the guy. So if that does end up, the way it looks currently, that's going to be an easy one to second guess. That said, who's going to care when we're partying down on Bourbon Street and the run starts this week? Packers roll, no problem with Geno Smith.
Chris,
now the only thing
you say that we have a problem, you cut it out now. Whenever you say we roll, Schmitty, right? You're my witness. We have a problem.
It's only when I say we're going to roll against the Lions, because I just keep doubting the Lions and they keep proving me wrong.
Oh boy!
You know what? I did say it against the Eagles, Philadelphia, week 1 too. I did. So maybe kiss of death there. We'll find out next week. I sure hope not. The only thing that gives me, talk about the PTSD from our games against the 49ers. I got some PTSD from the Seahawks matchups over the years. There's been some brutal ones. Fail Mary, Brandon Bostic amongst them, and a couple more, but despite that all. But let's not think about that. Going to be a different story. We're going to right those wrongs this week. Schmitty, any final words for the Packers Corner faithful?
Griffey, if the Packers lose, I'm going to clockwork orange the NFC Championship game that we lost. I pray that we win that game. I will be in absolute shambles. We can't lose. It won't happen. We're going to roll, like we said. I'm speaking it into existence, just like the Vikings go to the Super Bowl. Packers are going to win Against Seattle, it's going to look really good. Everyone's going to be talking about us. Oh my God, we're a really good team. Better watch out. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Yep. Done. Griffey, it's a little cold out now. If you haven't realized, Packers Corner, we're in the Midwest. It's a little chilly. I have a shirt off because I'm a bigger guy, so I can deal with these kind of weather. My BMI is rising at the level that I want it to be at for these long, hard days spent on the couch watching football, consuming it, cheering on the team that I love so much. And I'm telling everyone right now, why does it always food with me? I wonder. Look at me, okay? Griffey, start picking out your favorite dishes, the hot dish, the tater tot casserole. It's go time. I talked about it. Thanksgiving was a little preview. Get your body worked up. It's time for a Packers run. I want to see you and Gar shirtless joining me on Bourbon Street, and it starts right now. Packers Corner. Rise up for the occasion. Sunday night, you got plenty of time. 7:00 kickoff. Get something in that crock pot. We're going to have a party, and it starts Sunday night. Packers, I didn't say the score, Griffey. Packers win 30-17.
It's bulking season, it sounds like. We mix some cheese in there, and we'll be set. Dad, any final words for the Packers Corner faithful?
I'm just marveling over here at Schmitty. I guess all I can reminisce about a little bit and harken back is about this time last year, when we were just hoping and wishing, and somehow can we maybe get in playoff contention and play some meaningful games down the stretch. And we beat Detroit, we beat the Chiefs, and then we
we lost to Danny DeVito.
We lost
Tommy
to
DeVito.
Danny DeVito's nephew, and then we lost to Baker Mayfield, and I had to make a frame for my 17th hole at Cypress Point because I was so despondent. I needed to do something constructive with myself, and luckily I didn't cut my fingers off the table saw, and I made a frame there, and it's down in the golf room now. So just hearkening back to all that, we're fortunate. We got a lot to be thankful for. Football and our families and all the feasting that we've been able to do, Schmitty. And we just got to enjoy the rest of this regular season. I think it's going to play out in a way that puts us in a position to play some postseason football. But I agree, it starts right now with Seattle. Give them everything we got and get the job done, and we'll feel awfully good about where we sit, and we'll go from there.
What kind of cheese you have for us this week?
Well, I went all out with the Colby Longhorn last week, and that was a big play to get us over the top. And we played a very good ball game. We just came up a play short, so we're gonna go with a little curveball today. And I'm telling you, you want to scramble up some eggs and put some 3 cheddar shredded cheese on top, and then the secret is you slice up a little Gouda, and you put that Gouda right over the top, and you drip a little water and put the cover on the frying pan and let it melt all over there. So this week I got the Gouda. And
got the Gouda. Schmitty is quite a charcuterie man. If he had sleeves, I'm sure he'd have quite a few cheese options up them for us. We'll save that for another time. Thank you for joining us here this evening. We'll do it again next week.
Love you all.